There's a new kind of American mistake, and it always shows up in batches of 10, not the usual suspects. Everybody already knows that California, Hawaii, and New York will drain your account and then ask if you remembered to validate your parking. This isn't about them. This is about the states that used to make sense. The ones that earned a reputation as the smart move, the affordable escape, the place where an ordinary paycheck could still buy an ordinary life. You tolerated a few rough edges. Flat scenery, a thin job market, summers that felt like a slow roast in a closed car, but the math worked, so you forgave the rest. And lately the math has stopped working. Housing keeps climbing. The commute keeps stretching. The downtown keeps shifting in ways that never made it into the brochure. The schools keep slipping. And every parking lot somehow has 3 more luxury SUVs than it did last spring. To be fair, several of these states are still genuinely good. They're just walking calmly toward the same exit California used years ago. That's the whole pattern. A place gets discovered, then it gets popular, then it gets crowded, then it gets pricey, and one ordinary morning, you wake up paying premium rates for a lifestyle that quietly downgraded itself while you weren't paying attention. So today, we're counting down 10 states that became a bad deal without ever bothering to announce it. Let's get into it. Number 10, Texas. Texas still sells itself as the last honest frontier. Wide open space, real jobs, cheap land, world-class barbecue, and the freedom to live as loud as you please. For a long stretch, the pitch wrote itself. Leave California, drive east, buy a house with an actual yard, park something enormous in the driveway, and spend your golden years informing everyone back home that they chose poorly. And to be fair, Texas still works for a lot of people. The economy is massive, the job market is real across most of the metros, and there are still affordable towns out there, as long as you're willing to settle far enough from anywhere worth naming that your closest neighbor is a water tower. Texas isn't some cracked earth wasteland where the tumbleweeds formed a union. It has genuine advantages, but the deal has slipped. Austin priced itself into a different bracket entirely. Dallas keeps annexing the horizon one cornfield at a time. Houston traffic has the soul-flattening quality of a line that somehow moves backward. And every suburb in between has sprouted the identical starter kit, a dozen matching apartment blocks, 4 car washes, and a chicken place with a line you could measure in fiscal quarters. Here's the part folks tend to skip. Texas hands you a discount with one hand and quietly lifts your wallet with the other. There's no state income tax, which feels wonderful, right up until the property tax bill arrives dressed like a collections agency. Home insurance gets meaner with every renewal. School quality is a coin flip decided entirely by your zip code, and the commute has reached the point where a few drivers honestly deserve hazard pay. Texas is still big, still important, still loaded with opportunity. It has just become the place people flee to in order to escape an expensive state, only to act stunned that a few 100,000 other geniuses had the exact same brilliant idea on the exact same weekend. Welcome to Texas. You're the reason it costs this much now. Number 9, Oregon. Oregon used to be the reasonable person's California. Forests, mountains, a coastline that looks faked, strange little towns, and enough rain to keep every fern gainfully employed. It had a real personality. Outdoorsy, faintly smug about it, and deeply unbothered by the radical concept of opening on time. It was beautiful in a way that almost felt unfair to the other states. And to be clear, Oregon still has the goods. The scenery is absurd. The coast looks like it was carved by someone holding a personal grudge against the color brown. Bend, Eugene, Ashland, and the Willamette Valley are all still genuinely lovely. Even Portland, the punchline of 1,000 tired jokes, still has neighborhoods people would defend with their lives, and a cultural identity louder than some entire states. But Oregon got expensive in a way that feels almost personal. Portland is the headline. It went from charming and strange to expensive and strange, and somewhere in there, the strange stopped being the fun kind. The food is still excellent. The parks are still beautiful. But the rough patches downtown have become the first thing visitors notice, and a single city has a remarkable talent for dragging an entire state's reputation down with it. Perception doesn't care about your nuance. That's the real squeeze. The prices marched up while the most visible parts wandered the other direction. Nobody ever explained how you're supposed to raise the cost of living on a product that's actively getting worse, and yet, somehow, here we are. It's still beautiful. It still has wonderful corners that the headlines never mention. But when the rent climbs, the taxes start to bite, the downtown looks abandoned in the middle of a sentence, and the basics begin feeling optional, people eventually stop and ask the only question that ever really matters. What exactly are we paying for here? Oregon never quite answers. It just prints the next bill. Number 8. North Carolina. North Carolina got discovered so aggressively it probably wishes it had faked its own disappearance for a few years. For a long time, it was the perfect middle. Not too pricey, not too cold, not too strange, with mountains on one shoulder and the ocean on the other, and just enough growing cities to make every best places to move article completely lose its composure. And yes, it's still a great state on plenty of counts. Raleigh, Durham, Charlotte, Asheville, Wilmington, Greensboro, and a long string of smaller towns all have something real to offer. The job market has been strong where it counts. The universities are excellent, and you get genuine variety without ever needing a connecting flight to enjoy it. But the bargain is getting eaten alive, and it's getting eaten fast. The Research Triangle used to be the kind of place where a decent house and a firm handshake were essentially the same currency. Now it's the worst-kept secret below the Mason-Dixon line. Charlotte keeps inflating, and the traffic and sprawl have it looking less like a rising southern city and more like Atlanta's understudy who just discovered ambition and energy drinks. Asheville got so expensive, it's as if the mountains started selling tickets at the door. The schools and public services are uneven. The state has spectacular pockets, but the statewide average never quite matches the relocation pamphlet or the agent's pitch. Crime swings wildly from one neighborhood to the next, and all that growth has been leaning hard on roads, housing, and infrastructure that were comfortably sized for a much quieter decade. Basically, North Carolina invited the entire country over for dinner and then realized it only had enough chairs for about half the guests. This is still one of the better names on the list. It isn't doomed, not even close, but it's drifting into that danger zone. See where the price tag climbs faster than the quality of life and a hidden gem slowly turns into a jewelry counter running surge pricing. Quick word before we keep going. If you're seriously weighing a move to a new state, a new city, or just about anywhere else on the map, there's a link below for a site called Home and Money that can connect you with a real estate agent almost anywhere in the country. All right, back to the countdown. Number 7. Georgia. Georgia has spent years selling the affordable Southern success story, and large chunks of that story are completely true. Atlanta is a genuine economic engine. The airport can fling you to nearly any point on the planet, with a layover or two and a long walk to your gate. And the state has real job growth across film, logistics, tech, healthcare, and manufacturing. It stopped being just a dot on the agricultural map a long time ago and quietly turned into a production powerhouse. Georgia still works for a lot of people. The suburbs north of Atlanta keep pulling in families by the thousand. Savannah is a postcard that learned to walk. Athens has that easy college town hum. There's real opportunity here, and pretending otherwise would be dishonest. But Georgia has slid into bad deal territory because the problems are growing right alongside the population. Atlanta traffic isn't really traffic anymore. It's an endurance sport with no medal waiting at the finish line. Housing has gotten genuinely expensive anywhere people actually want to live, and the cheaper corners of the state tend to be cheap for reasons that introduce themselves pretty quickly. Poverty is still a serious issue across big stretches of it, and the ongoing conversation about safety keeps shaping how people talk about the metro, fairly or not. Georgia checks nearly every box on the classic warning list. Strong job growth, rising prices, infrastructure stretched well past its design limit, schools struggling in too many districts, and metro areas expanding like they're trying to quietly file a claim on the surrounding counties. It's still a state with serious upside. But lately it feels like Georgia is charging you full price for the future before it's even finished paying off the present. Number 6. Nevada. Nevada used to be the emergency exit for anyone who wanted lower taxes, cheaper housing, dependable sunshine, and just enough chaos to keep life from going completely gray. Las Vegas was affordable. Reno was the cooler, quieter cousin. And the whole state ran on a do what you want, just don't make it everybody's business kind of attitude. Nevada still has its strengths. Las Vegas grew into something well beyond the casinos and the neon. But the deal has shifted underneath it. Vegas housing is no longer the desert jackpot it used to be. Prices spiked hard during the migration wave, especially once buyers showed up flush with equity from somewhere far more expensive, carrying the strange confidence of people who think a stucco box is a steal at any number, provided the view squints in the right direction. Then there are the schools which have struggled for years, and growth has done absolutely nothing to fix them. Traffic in Vegas keeps getting worse. The water situation is a real long-horizon problem that doesn't go away just because nobody enjoys discussing it. And the cost of living has crept close enough to the national average that the old but it's cheap here line has quietly expired. Nevada is still interesting. It still skips the state income tax. It still offers a lifestyle that some people genuinely adore, but it's getting pricey while hauling around every weakness it always had. That's not a bargain anymore. That's a buffet that started charging steakhouse prices and somehow kept serving the buffet food. Number 5. Arizona. Arizona used to be the sunny landing pad for retirees and anyone who wanted lower costs and a little less commentary. Phoenix was affordable. Tucson had real character. And the state threw in warm winters, dramatic desert scenery, and enough golf courses to make your knees ache just from reading the map. Arizona still fits some people perfectly, just not as many as it used to. There's strong job growth in certain sectors, genuinely stunning landscapes, and fast-growing suburbs full of brand-new construction. Plenty of people move there simply because they love it, and that's completely fair. But the affordability story got beaten absolutely flat. Phoenix and its suburbs got expensive in a hurry. Rents climbed. Home prices jumped. The state went from affordable California alternative to California with a discount that's quietly evaporating, now featuring scorpions and steering wheels hot enough to erase a fingerprint on contact. Water, the same as Nevada, is the long-term question nobody loves answering, since the nearest ocean is several states and one impossible plumbing project away. The schools are a mixed bag. Poverty is a real concern in plenty of communities, and the safety picture varies enormously depending on which block you happen to land on. The core problem is that Arizona's old trade-off is wearing thin. People used to shrug and say, sure, it's brutally hot, but at least it's cheap. Now it's just brutally hot. And the moment a place loses the affordability excuse, everybody suddenly notices everything else all at once. Funny how a fat savings account can hide a long list of flaws, and how fast those flaws come roaring back the second the savings run dry. In number 4, South Carolina. South Carolina has been having a moment, and the moment is starting to cost real money. Retirees adore it. Remote workers found it. Charleston got expensive. Greenville got trendy. And Myrtle Beach keeps being Myrtle Beach, which is either the main attraction or the warning label, depending entirely on who you ask. There's still a lot to love here. Charming towns, real beaches, deep history, warm weather, and some genuinely pleasant places to set down roots. Greenville has improved dramatically. Charleston is flat out gorgeous. The state has pulled in serious manufacturing money and just keeps growing. It is not hard to see the appeal. But this is where the bad deal alarm starts blinking. South Carolina is getting more expensive precisely where people actually want to live. The coastal communities have seen prices jump hard in recent years. Insurance is a growing headache, hurricane risk being exactly what it is, and steady demand keeps nudging everything higher. Meanwhile, the education and safety numbers aren't exactly parading around with a championship trophy. The schools are weak in too many districts. Poverty is still a serious issue, mostly in the smaller towns. Crime is a real concern in parts of the state, and the roads and infrastructure never quite caught up with the growth, so traffic in the popular areas gets ugly in a hurry. Charleston's charm is undeniable. But at some point, the charm stops covering the bill, and you find yourself paying premium rates to idle in traffic beside a marsh, refreshing the forecast to see which storm is coming for your car this season. South Carolina is still a great fit for the right person. It's just getting more expensive a lot faster than it's getting any better. Number 3. Tennessee. Tennessee might be the cleanest example in the country of a great state pointed in the wrong direction. Years ago, it felt like a cheat code. Nashville was booming. Knoxville was cheap. Chattanooga had momentum. And the whole state offered mountains, music, low taxes, and a cost of living that pulled people in from every coast and a few other countries. They showed up acting like they dug up buried treasure in the backyard. And Tennessee is still great in plenty of ways. Beautiful landscapes, real culture, a growing job market, no state income tax, and some genuinely excellent cities. Knoxville and Chattanooga are easy to fall for. Nashville is still the economic heavyweight of the state, and East Tennessee remains some of the prettiest country anywhere in America. But the bargain keeps getting roughed up. Nashville got expensive fast, and I mean genuinely fast. Knoxville got discovered too, and once the internet finds your affordable mountain-adjacent town, the meter starts running, and it has been running here for a few years now. The state still has a stubborn problem with rising prices that nobody has solved. The education numbers are weak. Crime is a real concern in several cities. Healthcare access and outcomes aren't exactly brag-worthy material. Poverty lingers in both the rural stretches and the urban pockets, and Nashville traffic has gone from "I probably should have packed a snack" to "I probably should have just stayed home and mailed it in." Tennessee isn't bad. It's still one of the more appealing states in the country for the right person. It's just becoming a worse deal with every year that passes as the costs climb and the services quietly thin out underneath them. Number 2. Florida. Florida is the grand cathedral of it used to be affordable. For decades, it was the retirement escape, the beach fantasy, the tax shelter, the warm weather rescue plan for everyone tired of shoveling snow and paying northern prices. You moved to Florida because it was sunny, it was cheaper, and it came with a reliable supply of people doing genuinely unhinged things, the kind of behavior that quietly generates its own folklore, and the occasional headline you read twice just to be sure. Florida is still attractive, and there's no point pretending otherwise. It has beaches, no state income tax, relentless population growth, major metros, tourism, healthcare jobs, busy ports, and weather that never once asks you to own a coat. For wealthy retirees, remote workers, and high earners, it still adds up nicely. Plenty of people living there absolutely love it. But Florida has become a bad deal for a growing slice of regular people. Housing prices exploded across enormous stretches of the state. Rents shot straight up, and homeowners' insurance turned into a monthly horror story with no satisfying ending. That last one is the real nightmare. If you ever want to ruin a perfectly pleasant afternoon, type Florida homeowners insurance into a search bar and brace yourself, because what comes back reads less like a quote and more like a ransom note. And it certainly doesn't stop there. Condo fees, HOA dues, flood risk, car insurance, hurricane deductibles, and property taxes all link arms into one continuous financial weather event that never quite makes landfall and never quite leaves. The sunshine is still free. Almost nothing else down there is. Number 1, Colorado. And the number 1 spot belongs to Colorado. Colorado is still gorgeous enough to make otherwise sensible people say reckless things, like, who really needs savings anyway? The mountains are stunning. The outdoor life is real and not just a slogan stitched onto a jacket. Denver has jobs. Boulder is unapologetically Boulder. Fort Collins charms nearly everyone who visits. And Colorado Springs has grown at a pace that surprised even the people already living there. Decades on, the state still carries one of the strongest lifestyle brands in the entire country. And yes, Colorado is still a great deal for some people. If you've got a strong income, a real love of the outdoors, and the ability to absorb the housing costs without flinching, it can honestly be one of the best places in America to wake up every single morning. This is not a state with nothing to offer. None of the states on this list are, and that's exactly the point. The problem is that Colorado's price tag has gotten genuinely ridiculous. Housing is high, And even the small towns tucked up near the mountains have been dragged straight into the affordability grinder. Places that used to feel quirky and reachable now seem to require a trust fund, a remote tech salary, and a relative who happened to buy property back in the 1990s and accidentally became local royalty. Denver changed, too. The city still has strong neighborhoods and real opportunity, but it also carries the visible strain that the glossy relocation videos quietly leave on the cutting room floor. And the gap between the Colorado fantasy and the Colorado receipt keeps getting wider every year. People are finally starting to do the math out loud. That's why Colorado takes the crown. It's still one of the most desirable states in the country, and it has also quietly become one of the worst values in it. You're paying a steep premium. For mountains, you actually get to enjoy a handful of weekends a year, while the daily reality keeps drifting a little further from the postcard. Colorado is still beautiful. The value proposition just came down with a nasty case of frostbite. That's the list. States that didn't collapse, didn't make the headlines, and didn't warn a single soul. They just quietly got more expensive while staying exactly as flawed as they always were, and they quietly hoped nobody would bother to run the numbers. If you got something out of this one, the next video on your screen is right up your alley. Take care of each other out there, and I will see you in the next one.